The Galactic Council's envoy ship cut through the void of space, gliding toward Earth's orbit like a silent predator. It was massive, sleek, and carried the weight of an empire behind it. The Council had ruled the galaxy for centuries, bending weaker civilizations to its will. But humanity was different. Inside the ship, Ambassador Selvok stood tall, his reptilian scales gleaming under the artificial lights. His cold, golden eyes scanned the grand chamber before him, where humanity's representatives were waiting. He could feel their tension, their unshaken defiance. These humans, so young in the grand scheme of the galaxy, had refused to submit. But today, that would change. Or so he thought. Admiral Ethan Carter sat at the long, steel table, his hands folded as he listened to Selvok's speech. The ambassador spoke with authority, his deep voice echoing through the chamber. "The Galactic Council does not seek war," Selvok declared, his tone sharp yet calculated. "But humanity's refusal to obey has left us with little choice. This is our final offer. Accept peace under our terms, and you will be spared." Ethan leaned back slightly, his expression unreadable. Around him, Earth's top military and political leaders remained silent, waiting for his response. The air was heavy, thick with the weight of history being made. "And what," Ethan finally asked, "are these terms?" Selvok's lips curled into something resembling a smirk. "Your military will be disbanded. All interstellar travel will be restricted. You will become a protected species under the Council's rule." He took a slow step forward. "Refuse, and you will face extinction." A hush fell over the room. The words hung in the air like a blade hovering above their necks. But Ethan didn't flinch. He exhaled slowly, then stood. "No." The Council delegates shifted uncomfortably. Selvok's smirk vanished. "No," he repeated, as if the word itself was foreign to him. Ethan's gaze was steady. "Humanity will not kneel." Selvok's golden eyes darkened. "You misunderstand your position. We are offering you a way to survive. Your species is young, reckless. The Council is merciful, but our patience is not endless." Ethan crossed his arms. "Let me tell you what we understand." His voice was calm, yet edged with steel. "We understand that your Council fears us. You wouldn't be here if you truly believed you could crush us. You'd have done it already." Selvok's jaw tightened. "Do not mistake diplomacy for weakness, Admiral Carter. We offer peace, but we do not beg for it." Ethan stepped forward, closing the space between them. "And neither do we." The room was silent again. But this time, it was different. It was not the silence of uncertainty. It was the silence before a storm. Selvok's claws flexed slightly. "You are making a mistake, Admiral." Ethan's lips curled into a small, humorless smile. "Maybe. But if we go down, we won't go alone." The ambassador studied him for a long moment, as if searching for any sign of doubt. He found none. Finally, Selvok straightened. "Very well," he said, his voice quieter now, but far more dangerous. "You have sealed your fate." He turned sharply, his long cloak flowing behind him. "Prepare for war." Ethan watched as the Council delegation marched out of the chamber, their presence like a dark cloud retreating before the coming storm. As soon as they were gone, one of Earth's generals exhaled sharply. "That's it then. We just declared war on the most powerful force in the galaxy." Ethan didn't take his eyes off the door. "No," he murmured. "They just did." Far above Earth, the Council's envoy ship retracted its docking clamps and drifted away. Selvok sat in his private chamber, staring out at the blue planet below. His hands tightened into fists. Humanity had made their choice, and soon they would regret it. The Galactic Council's war chamber was silent, heavy with unspoken tension. Towering holograms of the most powerful council members flickered across the circular room, their alien faces grim. The rejection of their final offer was not just an insult, it was a declaration of defiance. Humanity had sealed its fate. Chancellor Malvok, the supreme leader of the council, stood at the center of the chamber, his expression unreadable. His golden reptilian eyes scanned the room, lingering on each figure. Finally, he spoke. So, his voice was cold, sharp as a blade. They refused. Zelvok, still fuming from his failed negotiation, lowered his head slightly. Yes, Chancellor, the humans will not submit. Malvok exhaled slowly. Then we will no longer waste words. It is time to execute Project Dominion. The room darkened as a new hologram appeared in the center, a map of the galaxy with Earth at its heart. Red markers flared up around human colonies, showing pre-planned attack routes. We will not allow humanity to gain a foothold, Malvok continued. Their numbers are small, their empire still growing. If we strike now, we can break them before they ever become a true threat. One of the council members, a pale-skinned being with 4 glowing eyes, nodded. Our fleets are ready. The first wave will target human colonies, cut off their resources, destroy their supply chains. Zelvok smirked. And when their defenses weaken, we burn Earth itself. There were murmurs of agreement. The plan was perfect. Humanity would not stand a chance. Far across the stars, deep within a classified human outpost, an urgent message flashed on a secured console. The words were simple, but their meaning was dire. Intercepted transmission. Project Dominion activated. Human colonies are primary targets. Earth is next. The officer monitoring the channel paled. His fingers trembled as he reached for the emergency alert switch. The war had begun. On Earth, Admiral Ethan Carter stood inside a high-security command center, staring at the intercepted data. His jaw tightened as he read the Council's plan. They're not coming for negotiations anymore, he muttered. They're coming to end us. Across the room, General Sarah Monroe's expression was grim. They'll hit the colonies first, she said. We don't have enough forces to defend all of them. Ethan nodded. Then we need to be smart. We can't fight them head-on. He turned to his tactical team. Give me every possible weak spot in their fleet formations. We won't just defend. We'll counterattack. One of the officers hesitated. Sir, that means launching a preemptive strike. Ethan's gaze was hard. Yes. A heavy silence followed. It was one thing to defend against an invasion, but striking first. That meant declaring war in the eyes of the galaxy. But Ethan knew the truth. This war had already begun, and humanity would not wait for death to come knocking. The stars burned with silent indifference as the Galactic Council's fleet surged toward its targets. Thousands of warships, armed with weapons capable of reducing entire planets to rubble, moved into position. The first wave of Project Dominion had begun. On the bridge of the Vokthar, the lead battleship, High Commander Reltor watched the screens with satisfaction. The humans had made their choice. Now, they would face the consequences. Targets locked, one of his officers reported. All colonies in range. We await your command. Reltor's clawed fingers hovered over the control panel. Let this be a lesson, he growled. Fire. A blinding burst of energy shot from the Council's fleet, streaking across the void toward the first human colony. It was a direct hit. A moment later, the screen lit up with explosions. The colony's defense grid crumbled. The people below had no time to scream. The invasion had begun. On Earth, alarms blared inside the military command center. Screens flashed red with urgent alerts. Human colonies were under attack. Admiral Ethan Carter clenched his fists as he saw the destruction unfold. He had expected this, but seeing it happen still felt like a blade twisting in his gut. How bad is it? He demanded. A young officer's voice trembled as she read the reports. Colony Epsilon 4 is gone, sir. Delta 7 is heavily bombarded. Our defenses can't hold them off. Ethan exhaled sharply. They're hitting us faster than we can respond. If they waited too long, Earth itself would be the next target. He turned to General Sarah Monroe. It's time. She nodded. Operation Phantom Spear. Yes. Ethan's voice was firm. We take the fight to them. Deep in space, hidden behind the shadow of a gas giant, a fleet of human warships lay in wait. Unlike the massive council vessels, these were smaller, built for speed and precision. They were outnumbered, but they had something the enemy didn't: surprise. Inside the lead ship, the Valkyrie, Captain Daniel Reeves watched his screen as the enemy fleet moved deeper into human space. His orders were clear: wait until the right moment, then strike hard. A silent countdown appeared on his display. 3, 2, 1. All ships, attack. Like a swarm of hornets, the human fleet burst from its hiding spot. Missiles and energy beams rained down on the unsuspecting council ships. Explosions erupted in the void. The council had walked straight into a trap. On the Vakthar, alarms wailed. Reltor's eyes widened in shock as his warships were torn apart by the sudden ambush. Where did they come from? An officer shouted. Reltor bared his teeth. It's the humans. They planned this. For the first time, the Galactic Council's forces were not the hunters. They were the hunted. Inside the Valkyrie, Captain Reeves grinned as another enemy cruiser exploded. "We've got them," he muttered. "Let's see how they like being on the losing side." But this was just the beginning. Humanity had just drawn first blood, and the war was far from over. The battlefield was chaos. Wreckage from destroyed council warships drifted through space like floating tombstones. Explosions flared in the void as the human fleet struck with deadly precision. The council had expected an easy victory, but now they were the ones bleeding. On the Valkyrie, Captain Daniel Reeves watched as another enemy ship burst into flames. His pilots were faster, more unpredictable, just as planned. "Stay on them," he ordered. "Don't give them a chance to regroup." But the council wasn't beaten yet. Inside the Vakthar, High Commander Reltor's fury burned hotter than the fires consuming his fleet. He slammed his fist against the command console. "Activate countermeasures," he barked. "I want every human ship destroyed now." His officers scrambled to respond. Defense grids flared to life, and the council's remaining warships began a brutal counterattack. Heavy cannons rained energy blasts onto the smaller human vessels. Shields flickered. The ambush had worked, but now the humans were outnumbered. For every council ship destroyed, 2 more took its place. The tide was turning. On Earth, Admiral Ethan Carter paced inside the command center, his eyes locked onto the live battle feed. The human fleet was holding the line, but not for long. "We can't sustain this," General Sarah Monroe muttered. "They have too many reinforcements." Ethan exhaled slowly. He had expected this. The council thought humanity was weak, but they didn't know everything. Not yet. He turned to his officers. "Prepare Nemesis Protocol." Gasps rippled through the room. Even Sarah looked at him in shock. "Are you sure?" she asked. "It's not ready." "It's ready enough," Ethan cut in. His voice was cold, final. "The council thinks they've seen our best weapons. They're wrong." Near the battlefield, a massive warship emerged from hyperspace. The Nemesis. It was unlike anything the council had ever encountered. Sleek, black as the void, and built with technology that no alien empire had ever seen before. The ship moved without sound, without warning, slipping through the enemy lines like a ghost. Inside, its crew prepared the most advanced weapon in human history: the Dark Lance, a super weapon designed not to destroy ships, but to erase them. No wreckage, no survivors, just nothing. On the Vakthar, alarms blared as the Nemesis locked onto its first target. Reltor barely had time to react before a dark beam lanced through space, striking the council battleship. For a brief second, nothing happened. Then the ship vanished. No explosion, no debris, just an empty void where it had once been. Panic spread through the council's ranks. They had fought wars for centuries, but they had never seen anything like this. "What is that?" One of Reltor's officers shouted. Reltor's throat tightened. For the first time in his long career, he felt fear. This wasn't just war. This was something far worse. Humanity had been underestimated. And now, the Council was paying the price. The battlefield had changed. Where once the Galactic Council's fleet moved with power and dominance, now there was only hesitation. Fear. The Nemesis drifted silently through the wreckage, its black hull absorbing the dim light of distant stars. On the Vokthar, High Commander Relter's claws gripped the control panel so tightly that the metal bent under the pressure. The war had been simple before: overpower the humans, crush their resistance, and force their submission. But this was something else. "They've unlocked forbidden technology," one of his officers whispered, staring at the sensor readings. "That ship, it deletes reality." Another officer turned, voice shaking. "High Commander, what are your orders?" For the first time in his life, Relter didn't have an answer. Inside the Nemesis, Captain Evelyn Drake watched the panic unfold on the enemy's comm channels. The Council was afraid. Good. She turned to her weapons officer. "Target the next warship. Make sure they see it." Another pulse of the dark lance fired. Another Council vessel simply ceased to exist. The remaining enemy ships hesitated, some even retreating without orders. "They're breaking," her first officer muttered. Drake nodded. Not enough. Because she knew the truth, fear alone wasn't victory. The Council still had thousands of ships. If humanity wanted to win, they had to strike at the heart of their enemy. She opened a secure channel to Earth. "This is Nemesis, requesting permission for Phase 2. A pause. Then, Admiral Ethan Carter's voice came through, calm and final. "Permission granted." Drake's eyes narrowed. "Set course for the Council's core worlds." The time for defense was over. Now, humanity was taking the war to them. Across the galaxy, the news spread like wildfire. The invincible Galactic Council, rulers of countless worlds, feared by all, was losing. Humans, the primitive newcomers, had unleashed a weapon beyond comprehension. Civilizations that had once mocked Earth now watched in horror. Inside the grand chamber of the Galactic Council, Chancellor Malvok stood before his gathered leaders. The room buzzed with panic and anger. "They cannot be allowed to continue," one alien diplomat hissed. "This weapon could unmake the galaxy itself." "We must surrender," another argued. "If we provoke them further, we could be next." Malvok's golden eyes burned with fury. "No, we will not kneel to humans." He slammed his fist on the ancient stone table. "Summon every fleet, every army. If humanity wants war, then we will give them annihilation." The Council's desperation had reached its peak. And soon, the final battle would begin. The Galactic Council had never known defeat. For centuries, they had ruled the stars, crushing rebellions before they could even begin. But now, everything was different. Humanity had not only survived, they had turned the war against the Council itself. Across the galaxy, entire civilizations watched in fear. Some whispered that the humans had become too dangerous. Others saw an opportunity. If the Council fell, who would rise in its place? And in the heart of the Council's empire, the greatest fleet in history was preparing for battle. On the Nemesis, Captain Evelyn Drake stood on the bridge, staring at the holographic map of enemy movements. The Council had gathered everything they had. Tens of thousands of warships, planetary defenses, even mercenary forces from lesser species. It was the most overwhelming military force the galaxy had ever seen. Her second-in-command, Commander Vance, folded his arms. "They're throwing everything at us." Drake smirked. "They're afraid. Desperate." Vance nodded. "Which means they're dangerous." Drake turned to her crew. "We forced their hand. Now we finish what we started." She opened a secure channel to Earth. "This is Nemesis. The enemy is ready. So are we." Admiral Ethan Carter's voice came through, calm and cold. "Engage." The final battle began. The human fleet surged forward, weapons blazing. The Nemesis fired its dark lance, erasing enemy ships from existence. But the Council fought back with everything they had: dreadnoughts, heavy cannons, planetary artillery. Space itself burned as ships exploded on both sides. On the Vokthar, High Commander Reltor gritted his teeth. "Their numbers are smaller," he growled. "We will crush them." His fleet fired in perfect coordination, overwhelming human defenses. One by one, human ships were destroyed. The Council had been wounded, but it was not weak. Inside the Nemesis, alarms blared as the ship shook from enemy fire. Sparks flew, systems failed, but Drake stood firm. "We push forward," she ordered, straight to their capital. The human fleet advanced, cutting through the enemy blockade. The target was clear: the Council's homeworld, the place where it would all end. The Council's homeworld, Prime Nexus, had never been touched by war. It was the heart of galactic power, where rulers dictated the fate of billions. Now, for the first time in history, it was under siege. The sky burned as human warships broke through the last line of defense. Planetary shields flickered, then collapsed under relentless bombardment. The ground trembled as shockwaves from orbital strikes shattered entire districts. Inside the Council chambers, panic ruled. Alien diplomats shouted over one another, their voices filled with fear. Some demanded a last stand, others pleaded for surrender. But Chancellor Malvox stood frozen, staring at the holographic display of the battlefield. Humanity was at their doorstep, and there was nothing left to stop them. On the Nemesis, Captain Evelyn Drake's expression remained cold as she watched the destruction unfold. This was not about revenge. This was about ending the war, on human terms. Her comms officer turned to her. "Madam, the Council is trying to contact us." Drake exhaled slowly. "Put them through." The transmission crackled to life. Chancellor Malvox's face appeared, his golden eyes filled with something Drake had never seen in a Council leader before: fear. We surrender," he rasped. "Humanity has won. What are your terms?" For a moment, there was silence. Then Drake spoke, her voice firm and unwavering. "There will be no more Council. Your empire is over." Malvox's hands trembled. "You don't understand. Without the Council, the galaxy will fall into chaos." Drake's gaze was cold. "Then let it burn." She ended the transmission. Across the galaxy, the news spread within hours. The Galactic Council had fallen. For the first time in history, the old order was gone. The empires that once feared humanity now scrambled to form alliances, unsure of what would come next. Some sought peace with Earth, while others whispered of revenge. But one thing was clear: humanity had changed the galaxy forever, and they had done it their way. On Earth, Admiral Ethan Carter stood in the command center, watching as victory celebrations erupted across the planet. General Sarah Monroe smirked. "We did it." Carter nodded. "Yes, but this is just the beginning." Because humanity had not just won a war. They had become something far greater. They were no longer the underdogs. Now, they were the ones the galaxy feared. The end.